All right. Welcome back to Resilient Voices and Beyond. I believe this is episode 12 of season 2. It has been a long time coming. I'm so excited for my guest today. But before I get into that, I just want to thank you all for the support that you have been giving me and this platform and the aspect of Resilient Voices and Beyond. Coming to the coffees and conversations, sharing your passions, your interests, and just sharing resources and connecting with one another. So I just want to thank you all because I definitely would not be able to be here and doing this without you all. And also just thank you guys for the support. I'm still in contact with some of the other guests that was on season 1 and some that's been on. So you guys have been reaching out to them and connecting with them. So thank you guys for just following through, utilizing this podcast as a resource, for foster parents, for foster youth, social workers and so forth, so I'm going to keep doing it as long as it's wanted, So yeah, without further ado, I'm really excited for the guest I have on today. You guys know I can talk, so I'm going to let him introduce himself and we're going to go from there.
Hey, thank you, man. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for the work that you do for us, for the youth, as well as for the adults that have had experience in the system. My name's Forrest Lang. I am an author of a book called Angel Blue, A Song of Redemption. I'm also a tattooer. I call myself a professional tattoo artist, an amateur psychologist. We have a role that's very similar to a bartender with people in our chair, and I thoroughly enjoy doing that. I'm a father. I have a 16-year-old daughter. I live with her and my longtime partner, Kristen, in La Jolla, California. I'm a little biased, but I think it's one of the most beautiful places in the world, and life is good. We all have our struggles of ups and downs, but I have achieved my dreams, and then now I'm in a position to pursue more dreams, and it's good to be here and it's good to be alive.
Awesome. Wow. The honor is all mine. I appreciate you being here. We're going to dive a little bit deep into your story, if you don't mind. My first question is kind of, if you don't mind telling us a little bit about where did this all begin for you in your experience?
Do you mean this current project, or?
Well, working our way to that. So, your earliest experience in child welfare. I know you are a foster care alumni yourself. So, where did your experience begin? To whatever ability you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
With that.
So when I was maybe 6 years old, I ran away, and my mama found me. Maybe 3 or 4 blocks away. I had pulled in a little red wagon, and I picked a couple of oranges off the tree and brought a toy. And she asked me why I wanted to run away, and I said, I don't know. And she said, please don't ever do that again. And I promised her I wouldn't run away again. And then we'll fast forward to 11 years old. I've been, my very earliest memory in life is of being a participant in exploitative child pornography. I got left a lot of places when I was younger, and I believe one of those places I got left is where that happened. And my older brother, probably because of that, I don't know, continued to do very sexual, ugly things to me. He was 3 years older than me. My mom married a guy who was very abusive. My mom was very abusive. We were in poverty, and my mother made a chart that marked everything that I did wrong throughout the week. And if I got 7 marks on the chart, I got beat by my stepdad at the end of the week. And one week I did so good, I only had 3 marks in my chart, and she carried it over till the next week. And so I still got beat real bad, and I didn't run away again until that happened. My stepdad beat me pretty bad. I still got a limp today. And I started running away from home. And that's how I ended up in the system, being a chronic runaway at 11, 12 years old. And Um, CFS eventually intervened. I was running away to a babysitter's house, and she was real nice. Let me do whatever I wanted. Told me I could run away and go over there and eat food and watch TV and smoke cigarettes, do just whatever. I stay up late, and she showed me a lot of extra attention, and was anyways, we get into that. But that she called CPS on my mom, and I ended up getting placed with her as a temporary foster parent.
Okay. My follow-up to that is, you endured a lot, in that spare time in those young ages.
Mhm.
Um, what was your mental state like? And I know, as a child, you probably run really conceptualizing all that was
Mhm.
really happening. But
Yeah.
to get a grasp of your mental state, and I'm gonna ask it as we build later on into your life, how has that grown? But then where were you mentally?
Well, in the process of writing my book, I got to get all those records, all those CFS records from back then, and I was pretty quiet. I remember not liking to talk. I didn't like to talk very much. I like to sleep with my shoes on. I was real nervous, withdrawn, and I had angry outbursts sometimes, and that was kind of the way I knew how to express myself. And I had a hard time trusting people. And I could do real good at school, but around that time, I kind of tanked and couldn't pay attention. And um, I didn't like to eat. Um, just a very withdrawn kid. I was still good with hygiene and all that kind of stuff, but I didn't like to talk, and I was very nervous all the time. I didn't like to be in one place for too long.
Okay. And you said from your running away is how you ended up in care. What was it like in care? Did you go to foster homes? Did you go to group homes? And if you can share about those experiences in those places.
Yeah, sure. So at first, I entered counseling, and they were trying to get me to stay with my mom, and I kept running away. And I was too. I mean, I told the therapist lady about my mom and stepdad hitting me and calling me names and that kind of stuff, and that there wasn't food sometimes, but I was too embarrassed to tell them what my brother was doing to me. I just was too ashamed of that.
Mhm.
And I kept running away from home and going to that babysitter's house who was applying to be a temporary foster parent. And she ended up getting granted custody of me. She was married with two kids. And she started, she was a pedophile. And so she was doing that stuff. And she also, she worked at a drive-in movie theater, but sold cocaine and marijuana on the side. And
Mhm.
one of her clients came in the house to get some yayo and saw her doing some stuff to me. So she called CFS, and I went to a group home after that called McAvoy House in Oxnard, California. And I really didn't like the group home, man. It was like a lock on the refrigerator door. It felt like it was a punishment. Like the staff was kind of rude, and they didn't care. And I ran away from there to go back to the you know the lady's house, because at least I felt like I was loved. And
I don't want to I for clarity on one thing because I just so one of her clients that she sold drugs to or one of her babysitting clients.
one of her clients that she sold drugs to
One
saw
of
her.
her clients she sold drugs to. So somebody that was using drugs caught the
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
Wow.
And so they took me out of that house right away. They tried to put me in a foster home in Fillmore. I ran away from there, and then they put me in a group home, and I would just run away from time to time. Um, the the county gave me a lawyer to advocate for me, and I didn't want nobody to know that my foster mom was molesting me, so I denied it.
Mhm.
And even though she was doing that stuff, it was the place where I felt cared for the most, because somebody acted like they loved me, bought me stuff, was kind, gave me food, like basic things that a parent should do for a kid that
Mhm.
unfortunately the system doesn't do, which leaves a lot of our children open to exploitation. because no matter what a kid says, at the end of the day, they just want to feel loved and provided for. And I didn't feel that way in the system. It felt very cold and institutional, and like people were just there because they had to. And it just really didn't feel like anybody gave a shit about me.
So how long did you just stay in that home until 18, or what was the
No,
pathway towards adulthood for you?
I stayed at the group home for a little less than a year, and then a new judge took over the case and didn't read none of the paperwork. And I was 13 years old, and she called me in her chambers and she said, "Where do you want to live?" And I said, "I want to live with my foster parent babysitter, the one who was a pedophile," which the judge didn't read the case files because she didn't know. And so she made an order right there and said I could go stay with them. And I ended up getting placed in that home. My foster mom, got paid money to have a to exploit somebody, and I don't know why, a 13-year-old doesn't know what's best for them. And, it just is what it is. It's what happened. But it was pretty messed up how, when I got my case files, how all over the place they were, how many people had their hands on it. I just kind of fell through the cracks. And, because I was already committed, even as a child, to be in that home, that's all that I wanted to do was be there. And I stayed there until I was 16, when my foster mom, I didn't want to do that stuff with her no more because I was starting to grow up and I wanted to have a girlfriend and I wanted to go out and live like a regular life. And things got real abusive and real dark. And my foster mom tried to kill me in a murder suicide. And she was going to drive off of a cliff in her minivan. And I got my foot on the brake, jammed the car in park, took the keys and threw them out in a field and ran away. And then I was on my own from there until I got into the Navy when I was 18.
And that time period from the the murder suicide, what age were you then?
16.
16.
Mm-hmm.
So 16 to 18, you just making do,
Yeah,
with life. And
I stayed here and there with friends. One of my buddies, he was a year older than mom, had passed away and left him with a trust, and he was on his own, so he had his own apartment. I stayed there a lot of times. His girlfriend didn't like me every night, but I only slept outside very few times. A lot of times, regular people are compassionate with homeless youth, and my best friend's family wanted to take me in and to go back to high school and all that stuff, but I was kind of a little too wild by then, and I didn't trust nobody, and I was drinking a lot. I knew I couldn't drink. I was staying there, and I just wanted to be drunk all the time, man. And I knew I wouldn't be able to do that if I went and lived with a family. I was pretty messed up.
So what was your mental state? And because you probably get by now, I'm building up. Where was your mindset at 16?
My friends used to make fun of me, man, because I get drunk and then I get sad, and one of my friends would go, "Oh no, Forrest is being a little bitch again." You know what I mean? They would like try to cheer me up, and one of my friends got me jogging and stuff, and I knew that I wanted to. I used to cut myself and stuff, and I get real sad and real low, and I have waves of up and down, and waves of fear and waves of confusion, and like, it's something that I guess it's appropriate to talk about because something that affects a lot of survivors. The first time I was ever with a girl, I hallucinated and saw the person who tried to kill me's face, and I had to, like, I didn't like people touching me. I was just, I wanted you to love me very much, and at the same time, I wanted you to stay away from me very much, So I lashed out at a lot of people, and I would have been maybe a little bit more dangerous if I had any muscle at all. I only weighed 110 pounds because I didn't like to eat. Um, I was terrified. And, if somebody looked at me, I wouldn't say hi. I would say, what the fuck are you looking at? And, that's was just the defense for me because I was afraid of everybody.
Mhm. I asked that question because a lot of stuff you just said resonated with me a lot. I didn't speak up about my sexual abuse until years after being in care, because as a male, society puts this perspective out that you're supposed to be this, that, and the third. And if this happens to you,
Yeah,
you are less
yeah.
than, and I don't know if you experienced that, but I remember trying to be open in a relationship, because those are your closest relationships when you get your first relationship with a girl or what have you. You try to be open about these things and then you face judgment.
Hmm.
And that, for me, that closed me off. I didn't tell nobody else or talk to nobody else about it for years, but I appreciate you being open about that because, I don't think it's spoke about it enough in the aspect, unless there's two sides of the coin. You have people who've been through it, that are males, and they have healed from it. They are a little bit more open to it, and then you have the individuals who, unfortunately, those scars were deep,
Hmm.
and they become a product of what happened to them. And find themselves in the criminal justice system.
Yeah, that doesn't mean reperpetration. A lot of people misunderstand that. Only one
Mm-hmm.
out of 200 people reperpetrate, but
Mm-hmm.
there's and I'm talking about becoming a predator or a
Yeah.
molester, you know, but the other effects of that, right? The anger, the violence,
Mm-hmm.
the, you know, the scarcity, the negative mindset, the addiction, alcoholism, all that
Yeah.
stuff. It's not, it's a great wound, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there's always going to be that mentality of, yeah, everybody's a victim, and everybody had something bad happen to them, and here's you with your woke, feelings talk and double speak and all this shit, and that's cool if somebody wants to think that way and judge me, but that's not what I'm about, man. I'm
Right.
about right. I'm about a positive mindset in the face of negativity, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you want to try to shame me for talking up, or you want to shut me up, or you don't want me to talk about this stuff no more. What's your agenda? What's your agenda really? If you
Mm-hmm.
don't, you want kids to get molested, you want boys to get molested. You know what I mean? Like what
Right.
your angle? And so I'm very happy to confront any kind of negative criticism of somebody sharing their story. And a lot of people misunderstand a negative mindset with telling the truth, right? And so we can become toxic positive where the only thing we'll speak of is good things that happened in our life, and we won't
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge the bad things that are going on. That's toxic because it doesn't break the cycle, and it doesn't make
Right.
any change, right? And a positive mindset is, hey, these bad things happen, and I acknowledge that, and it hurts, but I'm still going over here. I'm still climbing that mountain. I'm still doing these things in spite of that stuff. And hey, why don't you come with me? Because I see that stuff happening,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And it's a very complex conversation because it's a relatively new conversation, right? Like,
Yeah.
when did you watch the Dahmer uh thing they did on Netflix or Hulu or whatever?
See, so like everybody's asking me about that, but like I'm not like I dive into criminal justice. Like the deepest I go to is Law and Order and then Criminal Minds. But even to a certain extent, like some of that for me, like I like to think that I continuously work on things that have impacted me in my past. I'm far from perfect. I am far, and I want to
Well,
be completely transparent to my audience, because a lot of people think because I'm doing this, doing that, that things trigger me. but wait
Yeah,
for that purposely because I know the story, from reading context, and I'm like, I don't need a visual context to it, you know.
I couldn't watch the middle episodes when he was committing his crimes, but I did watch his arrest and prosecution, and I get that. But there was still a very pervasive mentality amongst law enforcement and the community at large that it's not possible for a man to be sexually assaulted, right? It's not
Mhm.
possible for a male to be sexually assaulted
Right.
because they should be strong enough to fight that off. That's why a lot of them serial killers got away with it. That's why my foster mom got away with it, because it's not possible for a female to rape a man, right? But here we are in
Mhm.
22, and we understand that children can't consent. A 12-year-old can't consent. It doesn't matter. And,
Mhm.
you know, there's some kind of weird thing going on with people's adult fantasies and stuff with stepmoms and all that incest crap. This whatever,
Yeah.
Uh, and so I catch a lot of shit on social media. They're like, "Oh, I wish I had a stepmom that did that," or like whatever. Um, but what a lot of people don't understand is not necessarily doesn't have to be the event that's damaging. It's the whole picture around the event, right? And all the shame and the confusion and the anger later and the realization and the gaslighting and all that stuff to work through in life that makes it difficult to function as a normal human being or whatever,
Mhm.
a successful human being. I don't even know what normal is, right? But to have a happy life. And to me, my definition of a successful and happy life is that 4-year-old me is proud of me, right? And
Mhm.
as I can be, maybe 70 or 80-year-old me is proud of me. You know what I mean? That those two
Right.
people, those two versions of myself are happy with how I spent my life. And this was a big obstacle for me in being, and still is sometimes, still a heavy weight to carry, right? I'm
Mhm.
not all better and all healed. There's stuff that triggers me, and I
Mhm.
feel stupid sometimes. And, like I'll have weeks where I'm like, dude, you lame. Like you're over here talking and writing about this stuff. Like that's ended up being a lot of my platform. And they're like, no one cares, man. What are you doing? You're dumb, dude. Like, what are you thinking? Like, why would you want people to know that about you? Like, they're probably just
Mhm.
all laughing at you anyways, and you're a clown, and you're this and that. And I hear that from inside my head, and then I hear it online too from the internet circles. But you know that's not what's relevant. What's
Mhm.
relevant to me is the message I got today from a young lady who, well, she's younger than me, right? But she has a son who's 22 and who was molested from 12 to 15, and he's hurting right now. He's 25 years old. He's hurting. He's drinking real bad, and he's unhappy, and it's just killing her to see all this manifestation of this stuff in his life. And she just
Mhm.
wants to find some happiness. And she said, "Thank you because you give me hope. I'm going to give him your book to read. And I'll be happy to talk to him too. Like whatever. Because sometimes I forget like how bad it was because it's not that bad anymore. My problems today
Mhm.
are, what do you call them? Like white girl problems or whatever. Like I didn't make a terrific amount of money this week, and my bank account's a little lower than I wanted it to be, and my kid's acting out a little bit, and then we had to do some construction in my house. Those are quality problems, dude. They're very different
Mhm.
from the ones that I used to have, and I get to keep that perspective and remember that I choose this purpose today of being a voice in this conversation so that I can have this conversation with you. Because if I wasn't doing this stuff, me and you wouldn't be talking.
Right.
And I know you're helping me. I hope that this conversation is helping you, and I hope it's of some service to the people listening.
Definitely, definitely. And I want to, ask a couple more questions and then get more of your story.
Mhm.
Um, but I think it's important to take this opportunity while we're uplifting the aspect of this kind of abuse more so happening to males and how it manifests, and it's very real. How did you or what did you take um to get over the hurdle of touch, get over the hurdle with relationships, being able to have those intimate relationships, and what have you. What if any tips or any advice, or any story you would like to share about that specific piece, for the
I mean,
audience. Yeah.
sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, right? We measure
Mm-hmm.
progress in years and decades, not in minutes and hours, and slow road for me. Um, now I like to use a lot of metaphors, right? If I'm carrying 800 things and I drop two of them today, I'm still carrying 798 things.
Mm-hmm.
But if I drop two a day in 400 days, I'm feeling pretty light, right? And it's been the same with my recovery from that stuff. For me, it really started with getting clean and sober. That was the first step, to eliminate the escape, right? Because the escape wasn't working as well anymore. Like, it was getting more violent when drunk, starting to get in trouble, running from the cops, um, waking up and not remembering where I'd been and what I'd done. And so getting sober was the first part for me. And then I got to start facing all of these things and learning and realizing, because look, man, we make, you know, 80 80 to 95% of our decisions without knowing we're making them. It's
Mm-hmm.
programmed from the age 0 to 8. That's when our decision making machine gets programmed. And so, learning how to unpack some of these things, right? Like, if somebody touches me right here on my chest and I just take off on them, just start hitting them and yelling at them. All right, well, maybe that's something that I get to look at, right? And I get to figure out when's the very first time that I remember somebody touching me there that bothered me that much? And then remembering that time and facing it head on and going, okay, well, you can use a little bit of cognitive behavioral therapy now that I don't necessarily need to hit them. And yes, it is crossing a boundary to touch someone in a place that's inappropriate, right? Or touch anybody at all without telling them. And so what I can do, instead of inflicting violence on this person, is I can take a step back and go, hey, listen, like, don't touch me like that, man. I appreciate if you don't touch me like that. And if they need to know why, and I feel like I want to tell them, I can tell them why. Otherwise, I don't have to, right? Because that's
Right.
just about, don't do me a favor and don't touch me. Now, if they do it again, enter my space again, then we meet force with force, right? So, like, and that's okay to defend yourself, but I don't need to just take off on somebody just because of
Right.
that trigger, or be cruel to the people around me because banging dishes bothers me, or the sound of somebody eating. I can use steps to manage myself and my care. Maybe I can put some headphones on when other people are eating, or remove myself from the situation. Or maybe uh, when I'm in my workspace tattooing and I don't like two radios playing at the same time, I can just go, hey man, do me a favor and turn that off, because we already have this radio on over here. And then if that person still wants to not listen and still play their phone, YouTube shit, I can kick them out. You know what I mean? But um, I'm learning how to function better as I go. And I'm not a lot better than I was yesterday with relationships and touching and all that stuff, but I'm a hell of a lot better off than I was 10 years ago. You
Right.
know, like, I used to be so, when I get real mad at my girl, we're fighting, I used to punch myself in the head, bro. It was just a way to, like, like, put the message through without hitting her or hitting somebody else, that, hey, this is really bothering me and I feel like I'm out of control. And can you imagine, like, what it's like from their perspective? You're
Mhm.
arguing with her boyfriend, he starts hitting himself in the head, you're like, wait, what? It's scary,
Yeah.
right? And so I learned how to sit on my hands and not do that. I learned how, um to not need my validation from how many females like me or how many females want me, and learn how to be
Mhm.
faithful person. And these are things that took me years to figure out, man. And it's still, like, sometimes it's tough, to find, um you know intimacy, right? Because to be loved, to truly be loved, what that means, all it means, is to truly be known. And if I'm afraid for them to know things about me, or they react in a way that I don't like to knowing things about me, it makes it hard to be known. So it takes time. It takes a lot of time.
Definitely. I appreciate your honesty in that, and I hope those who are listening and what have you can really take some context from that. I still believe, and I've been doing this work in advocacy and working on the groundwork with youth coming straight out of care, being institutionalized, and helping them break down that aspect of themselves and get to a place of understanding, acceptance, and hopefully forgiveness. You know, because in the aspect how I'm role modeling and how I teach them is the forgiveness is not for the person, it's for you. You know, but something that you said resonated deeply with me is, in order to get past your triggers or to face them, you have to be able to, when they happen, identify the root
Mhm.
of it. Why am I frustrated? When did this become something that I got frustrated at? You know, so
And
you can
and oftentimes
separate. Yeah, go ahead.
oftentimes our loved ones might be the ones that point those out to us because
Hmm.
we're operating in this way for so long that it's just normal life to us,
Yeah.
that I don't like people taller than me. I just don't like you because you're taller than me. That doesn't make any sense, right? Like, why would you not like somebody just because they're taller than you? Unless your
Mm.
older made you do stuff and was that much taller than you, then it makes sense. So maybe we can look at that and maybe we can understand that tall people aren't bad. You know what I mean? It's just stuff that I
Right.
never really even, thought to visit before or even think about. And people around us, therapists, support community, our friends, our mentors, sometimes even the people we mentor can point things out for us. And it's
Hmm.
ability to sit and listen to that because conflict can be very difficult. Criticism can be very difficult for us. And to learn how to take a step back and observe, right? Observe
Hmm.
my thing. Okay, well, I feel pretty angry about that thing. Why is that? You know what I mean? Just to be able to take those pauses. Pausing is a big deal.
Yeah.
Pausing is very helpful. Uh, and pausing doesn't always work. It's not always appropriate 100% of the time, but 90% it is.
Yeah. A big thing for me was, starting out was very small, but positive self-talk. And it moved from positive self-talk to mindfulness exercises, you know, um 18 to 20. I'm 25 now, so not too long ago. 18 to 20 was me getting over that institutionalization, the group homes, leaving sexual abuse and going into child welfare, being in all those different facilities and seeing sexual abuse, you know, in those, and then coming out and not knowing what to do with myself, breaking that down, and relationships, looking for that, what's the word I'm looking for? Recognition,
Peace.
from, from friends, from, other people, from women and everything like that. And then really getting to a place of like, I need to get me together,
Mhm.
and I took like a year and a half and really dove deep within myself and face things head on. A lot of people, I'm not saying everybody can do that. Sometimes you got to pace yourself, but for me, I got tired of being where I was, and I wanted to be better, and I was like, in order to do that, this is what I need to do, and this is what's going to work for me, so I challenge you guys, if you're listening to this and something that me or Forrest have said resonate with you about this particular topic or experience, take some time, find out what you need to work towards or what works for you to get in that place of healing, and not, and note that healing doesn't happen overnight. And sometimes, for some people, it's a continuous thing, you
Mhm.
know. So I challenge you guys, if you've heard something that resonates, to, start on that journey for yourself or start the conversation about it at least, you
Do you
know.
mind? Do you mind if we back up a little bit to forgiveness?
Yeah, go ahead.
That was very difficult for me to process, right? Like, how do I forgive somebody who did something so horrible to a little kid? Um, and in my mind, I believe that they deserve death for doing that, right?
Mm,
Uh, but I am not the hammer of justice, right? And forgiveness and justice. are very separate entities, right? Forgiveness and reconciliation are very separate entities too, right? So all forgiveness is, I looked up in the Webster's dictionary to figure this out, um, is we eliminate resentment, right? And we abandon revenge. So it is not my place to go and bring harm to people who have harmed children. It is society's place to do that, to implement justice. Now, whether society is doing that or not, which I don't believe they are, it's not my job to individually go out and be a vigilante, right? Because that's not living in forgiveness. And forgiveness is like a pond that I can step out of and mess up and step right back into. It's not a final act. Forgiveness is a practice, right? Where I eliminate any feelings of resentment. Now, resentment is long lasting agitation and hatred. And the way I do that is to go through therapy and learn how to better myself and better my life and improve my life so much that I ain't even thinking about them anymore. You know, like they're a blip on my radar, man. And all I have now is this aftermath to work through. And I work through each thing as it comes, and my life keeps getting better and better. And I'm so positive that ugliness can't even touch me sometimes. Doesn't mean it doesn't come back, and I'm not perfect, and whatever. Life is ebb and flow, and there's seasons. But you know, it doesn't mean that I'm their friend. Doesn't mean I ever need to speak to them again. It doesn't mean that they don't belong in prison or whatever. It just means it's not my place to do that. The hardest person to forgive, to clear resentment and abandon revenge to, is me, because I have to be with this person, right? Wherever I go, there I am. And so how do I eliminate revenge and stop resenting myself? Well, it's how I treat myself, and it's what I say. That positive, speaking those positive things, right? That
Right.
we doing, and learning how to. My voice is like it guides me where I'm gonna go. You know, if I continually say, "Well, I'm gonna fail. I'm gonna end up in the gutter. I'm gonna be on the street. People ain't gonna like me. This ain't gonna work out." Well, guess what? It's not gonna. You know. But if I say, "Hey, you know, I'm going places. I'm getting better as a tattooer. I'm going to be the best tattoo artist I can be. I'm going to be monetary successful. I'm learning how to manage my money and become a more stable person. I'm a good father. I'm non-abusive. I create positivity in my life to the people around me." Guess what? That's my body's going to follow my voice, man. You know, and so learning how to stop beating myself up, learning how to eat right, how to get that exercise, how to go to the doctor when I'm sick, how to do fun things for myself, you know, because that's a hard one for a lot of us. I think me in particular. What do I do for fun? You know, when I'm not taking care of business and taking care of everybody else. And you know, it's a big spectrum of practice that I measure in years and years. You know, um, like I was saying, I ran out of
Thank
steam.
you for thank you for that. You know, and some things I want to highlight that you said is, you know, taking your time with forgiveness, you know, and really understanding it and taking the process. It's a process, you know, taking ownership of yourself and accountability and responsibility, you know, and that's a big one when it comes to people who have experienced trauma, whether it be sexual abuse, physical abuse, or what have you. You know, when we get to adulthood, some of us stay in that blame place and leave ourselves unfunctional, you know. But you know, what I'm gonna say today is, you know, at some point, you know, not saying that what happened to you is wrong, not saying that what happened to you isn't wrong, or that person doesn't deserve this, that, or the third. But in order for you to continue on to live, you have to take ownership of yourself, accountability, and responsibility.
Mhm.
You know, and I heard that from your story when you were saying, you know, you can't just react in certain ways anymore. You're grown, right? It's a whole
Yeah,
different system, whole different rules and stuff like that. You know,
yeah. I can
I'm
do
sure
whatever.
want to put hands on people, but you know, as an adult, You can't
Anything
do that.
I want, I can, as long as I'm willing to pay the consequences, right?
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And that's a
All
large
pros and cons.
that's
I've
a
been doing
large price to pay.
yeah, man, I've been doing pros and cons lists for years. Easy enough, piece of paper, line down the middle, pros and cons of this thing that I'm thinking about doing. This bright idea that I have. And
Mhm.
not that I don't have compassion. I have massive compassion if you suffer. I really do. And I believe you if you've earned the right to be miserable. I really do. I believe you. Uh, and it takes time to come out of that stuff too. But how free do you want to be? What life do you want to have? And it's
Mhm.
possible for you to have that life that you want to have, no matter what, because
Mhm.
our dreams are exactly what we're capable of. And people have done some pretty incredible things. And we stand on the backs of some giants that have done some pretty incredible things. And we can look to them and look and see what they did and find mentors and find people to copy what they do. Nobody's going to do it for us. It's just not going to happen. I always wish somebody would come in and save me when I was younger. Someone would just come fix things, and like I'd win the lottery, or some great thing would happen and something would come out and just my life would be built for me. It's not the way. It doesn't happen that way. We got to put in the work, and it's not fair. It's definitely not fair for us. But you know what? It doesn't matter what's fair. It's what's happening. Like what's really going on. Where are we really at? And where do we want to go? And I'll tell you that a positive attitude, positive mindset will help us rise through unbelievable circumstances. And we time is on our side because we're in that long game, and just one thing every day to make my life better that accumulates over years. And before we know it, I look around and realize, like, oh, hey, I had a moment of clarity and my life's pretty good. Uh, so I believe if you're listening to this and you're not sure, I believe in you. You can do it. You can do this thing. Just one day at a time. Just keep moving towards that goal. One day at a time, one little thing.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you for that. Um, we stopped at you going into the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what was that journey going to? Because I understand that was a lot of discipline.
I was
Real
like, what?
quick.
I was
you
angry
know.
at the time, man, and I hated all those people that were telling me what to do and where to go, and I had to memorize all these things, and it was a tough adjustment for me. But I knew that I believed it was my one chance to get out and go, and I wanted to be an artist.
Mhm.
And they told me they give you money for art school or like whatever, and I became a hospital corpsman in the Navy, and I did it all begrudgingly, and I didn't want to do any of it, and I hated it all at the time, and it was the best thing I ever could have done. The tough love was really what I needed. Um,
Mhm.
that they were bigger and badder than me, and if I didn't do what they said, they were going to kick me out, or I was going to go to jail, or I was going to get on restriction and get my pay taken away. You know what I mean? And so that
Mhm.
was for me to keep me at least to really want to do the right thing and really do right. The drinking got me in a little bit of trouble, but back then they were a little kinder to people with drinking problems. Maybe they're okay now too. I don't know, but they let me go to rehab and then go back to work.
That's good. That's good. So after the Navy, what uh work me to work me to after the Navy to Angel Blue.
Okay, so um, after uh, I got out after the war in 2004. Um, I came home and I learned how to tattoo in the war in Iraq. I was with so then the Navy medical personnel sometimes will go support the Marine Corps. Um, it just depends. There's a billion different jobs for medical
Mhm.
personnel, but I ended up as a combat medic, and the guys are really cool. I'm actually here in Tennessee with a reunion with those guys, all later from 2004, and they pitched in and bought me tattoo equipment. And when I came home, I found an apprenticeship in, oh, you still there? Okay, good.
Yep.
Found an apprenticeship in Arizona, and I started working, working real hard, trying to build that good life, and leaning in. I stayed sober. Sometimes there were some times where things still got real dark, and I reached out for help. And American veterans are very blessed to have access to a lot of different mental health treatment and psychological treatment and experiential stuff. And I got to a place where my life was feeling good, man. And it's in spite of right before COVID, the economy was doing real well. I'm like saving money and living this good life. And I decided that I wanted to go travel. And I thought I worked through all my stuff, but I guess I still forgot a lot of it, or hadn't faced it and dealt with it. And I couldn't find my birth certificate. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I'll just order another one. So I ordered another one from New York, where I was born. And they told me that a private company took it over, vitalcheck.com. So I hit up VitalCheck, and they didn't have my birth certificate. I'm like, come on, you guys, like, really? Like, you got some private company, can't find my birth certificate. What's up? So I called them, and 3 supervisors in, I've been on the phone about 25 minutes. I'm sitting on the side of the road in my car. This lady, she goes, well, I don't have a Forrest Lang, but I have a Forrest James blank, and gave me my foster mom's last name. And I was like, that's not my name, and in that moment, I remembered that they adopted me to stop CFS visits so she could start selling more drugs and do more things, and have the county out of her life. And I started screaming at that lady, that's not my name. It's not my fucking name. It's not my name. And I was still screaming. She was hung up by the time I was done screaming, and I went home and started writing down everything that I remembered. And that turned into a book 4 years later, and it was quite the process doing that. Writing Angel Blue, A Song of Redemption, was hard. It was hard, and it was not fun, and it hasn't been an easy road for a guy like me to write and publish a book. I published it on my own, but you know what? It's there. It's there if somebody finds it, if somebody comes to me who needs it. And I've gotten positive feedback from it that it is helpful to people who've had trauma and stuff, because it's just a conversation just like me and you are having. I can't have that conversation with everybody, but that book will be there even after I'm gone, right? And my intention when I had it all edited and finished, it was the book the 16-year-old me needed to read. You know what I mean? When I was out the streets, and if somebody would have gave me that book to read, I think it would have impacted my life and helped me to get to a positive place in life earlier. It's taken me, some years to not be on the edge of homelessness, and not be on the edge of going to doing something that might get me in trouble, or not being able to be faithful in my relationship, or not be able to be truthful, not be able to be open, to be able to practice nonviolence. I don't defend my ego anymore, man. You say anything you want to me, I don't care. I don't care what you think, what you have to say, like whatever. If you place your hands on me or my family or my livelihood, that's a different story. Then we can apply violence. But I don't need to defend my image with violence.
Thank you for that. Thank you. I just, want to take a moment to just say I appreciate, all that you have shared, and your openness, and being vulnerable with me, and for whoever that's listening to this, it's needed, and I know for myself, this is very helpful, just taking it in. Anytime I do these, I'm like, what can I take notes on? What can I receive, and you said a couple things that I'm gonna use in my work, but also that resonated deeply with me. Um, only have a couple more questions for you.
Oh,
And
you're good.
one, when can I come out and get a tattoo. I have not, you know, I,
Man.
I have a goal to, get 2 sleeves in my chest done.
Yeah,
But it's something for me. I'm like, oh man, I don't know, find the right artist, and everything. And for me, is I want to tell my story, you
yeah.
know, and um, that's something, I think, as an alumni brother, I would love to have you do that for me, do some work, so we're gonna have to link up with that. But
Oh yeah.
outside of that, that was a personal question for me. If y'all are gonna find him, you know, that's gonna be next. But what advice would you like to leave here to any person, any specific category of people, or in general? What advice would you like to leave here today?
That's hard, man, because I don't give a lot of advice, you know. That's scary to give advice. That means I gotta act like I know what I'm talking about, right? But I will I can say 100% that you can't put out light with darkness. You cannot. If you choose to be a light, they can't put you out. If they take your life, all they do is make you brighter. There's nothing darkness can do to put you out. And that even though we feel pain and we feel the unfairness of life sometimes, and we can feel hopeless, that hope is a choice. Hope is a choice and a declaration. It can be as simple as, I will have my own apartment. I am going to have my own apartment with my own bedroom and furniture and stuff that belongs to me, that nobody else can come in, and I can come home from whatever I'm doing and have peace and sit and do what I want to do in my space, right? That
Mhm.
is that is strong declaration, and it's powerful for you. If you were like me, to be able to do that, to create a life, to be able to do something as big as that. And to some people, that might not seem like a big deal at all. But to me, that was a huge deal. And if you're climbing out of hell, man, keep climbing. And I see you. Other people may not, but I see that you had to transverse this 1,000 miles to get to the starting line. And I'm proud of you, and I believe in you, and you keep going. You're powerful. You're powerful, and you can do this stuff. If you can make it through the system, you can make it through foster care. You can come out and and practice whatever abilities you have to function. Keep working on those things, and it's gonna get good. We wouldn't do this stuff if it didn't get good. And I don't want to leave nobody behind, man. I can't do it for you, but there's people blaze a trail ahead of me. Georgette Todd is one of them. I hope you have her on your show sometime. She wrote a book called Foster Girl.
Mhm.
Um, look to mentors. We look to people that have what we want, right? And how did they get there? People who have a similar experience to us, that have what we want. We copy what they do, you know?
Definitely, definitely. Thank you for that. Any last comments? And this is a space. If you got a rap song, an album coming out, for you got a book, whatever.
I
How can
wish I was
people
a rapper.
support, connect? What's your website? What's your social media? Like, how can people, further connect with you?
Well, so I have a website, angelbluebook.com. It's angelbluebook.com. I'm on Instagram as Angel Blue Book. My tattoo Insta is Forrest James Lang with 2 R's. You can shoot me an email. You can send me a message. I'm on TikTok at Forrest Lang, FORRESTLANG. I'm pretty easy to find. Um, if there's something I can do for you, you let me know. If you want to read that book, but you ain't got the money, you send me a private message on my website, shoot me an email, and I'll email you a PDF for no charge, because it's more important to me that I can put it in the hands that need it. Um, if you're a county worker and you want to get a copy of it to see if it's good for your organization to hand out to trauma survivors, hit me up and I'll send you a copy. It's all grassroots. I appreciate all the support that everybody's given me so far in this project. Um, it's not been easy. It's been one of those things where I felt like quitting and felt like giving up, because I get so frustrated because I'm a 10th grade dropout. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
but we're getting it done, and it's a slow road. And um, if somebody wants access to that book and are unable to get it, please get with me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, and buy it too. People don't buy books. It's weird, man. You know how many of my
Yeah.
friends bought my book? You know how many friends I have? You know what I mean? Like, you want to
Mhm.
you want to support a former foster youth and doing something, buy the book, man. You know, get on angelbluebook.com or Amazon, buy a copy.
Definitely, definitely. Please support, guys. It's an important message. We talked about a lot of things here. Um, and I can't help but to think about how many people this is going to impact and help out. You know, um, but for me, like, if just one person this helps, I'm fine with that. You know, but for myself, I just want to say it's such an honor and a privilege to talk to another person, who've been through some similar things, um, and is thriving in their own right. And I appreciate that. It's such an honor. I know we connected and
Yeah,
everything. You in my life for life at this point. You
me too.
know, um,
And
and
if you're
I really appreciate it. A lot of what you told me, resonated with me, and I just can't thank you enough for what you're doing, for your book, for just continuing to choose life and live and breathe life into others.
thank you, man. Thank you. I'm very humbled.
Um, So, this is it, guys. I'm gonna continue to knock down, these trees and have these hard conversations that aren't really happening, and just highlight and uplift this, with people who are willing, to just have the conversation. I know that a lot of things that we talked about today can be heavy, can be triggering too. So if something you've heard or in the midst of listening to this, if you made it this far, you've probably, made it towards the part where I'm saying that, take some time after listening to this, you
Well, there's
know. Um,
there's the National Sexual Assault hotline. You can find
mhm.
it on Google. There's an organization called RAIN that's terrific. And as a side part of RAIN, there's for men, there's 1in6.org, where there's a lot of resources for male survivors. So it's out there. It's out there, and you're not alone. And there is resource and support.
Definitely. And, if you don't mind, I'm here. Feel free to DM me, contact me. You heard it from
Yeah,
Forrest. Feel free to reach out to him. As survivors, we're willing to have that conversation, willing to, help, listen, if anything,
absolutely.
so definitely, take time if you've listened to triggered or this has challenged you or provoked something, don't let it go on deaf ears, you know. Um, if you don't feel comfortable talking to somebody right away, get a
Yeah,
journal. Get a
yeah,
journal. Start writing. You know, and I know this sounds crazy to some people, but if you just want to write it down to get it out, write it, throw it away, write it, burn it.
yeah. Yeah.
Don't set your house on fire. Let me put that one. Don't like if
That's
you go back,
nice.
don't be outside. you know, do it in a controlled environment, but be safe, you guys. Take care of your mental health. Get some self-care in there. I know a lot of us, and this is something that we spoke about. We didn't go in detail, but a lot of us, we in order to get through, we hide in our work and don't do the internal work. It's good to be great at, public speaking, doing a podcast or chat to and all this other stuff. But if we don't do the internal work, that stuff will sneak up on us,
Yeah.
So, take the time to really, look within yourself and do that internal work and let that process begin. You don't gotta be perfect. You ain't gotta be all out great or what have you, but start that process, and freeing yourself, because carrying that weight, I can't imagine how heavy. It is, you know. So yeah, and I hope, as we talked about relationships and the journey with that, because I know this is a struggle with foster youth and alumni across the board, you know, I know it's hard to trust. I know it's hard to be open, but just know that there is a relationship out there for you. You know,
Yeah.
nobody's perfect. Even people who haven't been through what we've been through. You know, nobody's perfect, but just know that there's people out there. There's companionship.
And
And it
don't
may
settle.
not even be a person. It may be a goldfish or a dog. You
Yeah.
never know. Like yeah, you can find companionship. You can find friendship and stuff like that. So don't give up. You
And you don't
know,
have to settle either. You don't have to settle. You
yeah,
know, you're
don't.
worthy.
you
Yeah.
know so I just wanted to uplift those couple things, but also while I'm on here, we're getting towards those winter months, so we're getting towards cold and flu season. COVID is still out there. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. If you need to throw that mask back on, throw the mask back on. If you're sanitizing, please remember, sanitize a couple times, then go wash your hands. Sanitize does not supplement from washing your hands. So please just make sure you're taking care of yourself, because by you taking care of yourself, you're taking care of this huge village that we call America, and all of us that within the globe. So it takes one person to do the right thing, and it takes all of us to continue to do that too. you know so outside of that, this has been Resilient Voices and Beyond, episode 12. Really appreciate you guys